Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Founder Hour podcast.
And this podcast is brought to you by Outer. Outer makes the world's most beautiful, comfortable, innovative, and high-quality outdoor furniture, all from sustainable materials, and is the only outdoor furniture with a patented built-in cover to make protecting it effortless. From teak chairs to fire pit tables, everything Outer makes has the look and feel of what you'd expect at a five-star resort for less than you'd pay at a big box store for something that won't last.
Pat, and you know how much I love five-star resorts.
Oh yeah, I do.
And as you know, Pat and I spend a lot of time outdoors, and we love hanging out on our outer couches. We're certain you'll love it too. For a limited time, get 10% off and free shipping at liveouter.com. This is Outer's best offer anywhere.
Anywhere.
Only available to the Founder Hour listeners. Get 10% off and free shipping at live, O-U-T-E-R. Let me say that again for all you alphabet geeks. Live, OUTER.com/the Founder Hour. That's liveouter.com/the Founder Hour. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey everyone, before we get into the episode, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy what you hear, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That way you get notified when new episodes drop. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn at The Founder Hour. Let's get into it. Our guest today is Steve Madden. Starting out in 1990 with just over $1,000 in the bank, Steve followed his passion to create one of the most recognized brands in the world of footwear and fashion. Over the last 30 years, Steve has built his eponymous company into one that is worth over $3 billion. But as some of you may already know, he almost lost it all at one point after spending 2.5 years in prison for his involvement with the infamous Stratton Oakmont scandal that was portrayed in The Wolf of Wall Street. We had a super interesting discussion with Steve about his life and upbringing, what inspired him to become a fashion designer, his takeaways from prison and the first thing he did when he got out, why he wrote his book, The Cobbler, and much more. Let's dive right in.
Steve, thank you for being here with us. We're in Pat's apartment, which is kind of like our makeshift studio these days. So thank you for coming out here. I know you're here from New York. So excited to spend this time with you. We always started off with talking about the early life of the founder, kind of setting the stage of where you were born, what you were like as a kid. So if you kind of want to walk us through that, that'll be helpful.
Well, I come from New York. I come from a place called Nassau County. In Nassau County, I don't know if you guys know.
Nassau County.
Yeah.
Nassau County.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the Bahamas, Nassau.
That's right.
Right.
South Shore, right by the Atlantic Ocean. And I had so I got a good job in the I got a job in a shoe store when I was in high school. I had no, secret desire to be in the shoe business, but that's the way it went.
What about before that? Talk about like where, your parents and what life was like as a kid. Were you an active kid? Were you a good student?
Lionel trains. I was amazed by Lionel. You know what Lionel
I
trains are?
I don't.
What's it called?
Lionel trains? You don't know?
Nope.
God, you guys, Jesus. I feel very young, but I'm not that young, but I feel young. So I can't imagine that anybody wouldn't know what Lionel. So we used to have trains, you could make the trains run, from remotely. It was like a big deal as a kid.
Is it like kind of those Christmas tree ones that go around the tree?
Yeah, the one, yes.
What were those called? There was a brand.
Well, Lionel was the big.
Okay, maybe that's
Lionel
what it was. Yeah.
Well, we had them. It was amazing to me, things like that. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
were you into sports?
I was into sports. I was sort of typical kid, nothing special. I'm from the suburbs, very, very not special person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the only thing unique, and I don't even know if it was unique, was that I was a big reader, which is, I was kind of a wild kid, but I read. It was sort of not my brand to read.
What did you read?
People use that expression a lot today.
What kind of books?
I read, I started reading, at an really early age. Dr. Seuss was the was the first thing that I remember really loving, and would read those books over and over again. And then started reading other stuff, and
Yep.
I think a lot of people my age probably grew up reading. I don't know if I'm that unique, but I was very interested in reading about rich people, and particularly reading about movie moguls. I was so fascinated in that, and I would read all the books about all the mostly Jewish guys that came to Hollywood, from Russia or the Lower East Side of Manhattan or whatever. I found that so interesting. Not all of them were Jewish, but
Yeah.
most of them were.
Was that more so for you something or someone or someone's to aspire to become? Were you trying to look up to these people as I want to be them one day?
Yeah, I definitely did. I remember reading about, Samuel Goldwyn and Harry Cohn and Louis B. Mayer, and I wanted to be them. I read that David Geffen used to do the same thing. I haven't heard anybody say that, but I did hear him say that.
I've read his book, The Operator, I think it's called.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very thick book.
Very thick book.
It's thicker than the Bible.
It's thicker than the Bible.
It is thicker than the Bible, yeah.
Yes. It's biblical.
Very biblical.
Yes.
Very
Were
biblical.
you a creative kid or not really?
No, not really. No, I don't think so. I mean, looking back, I think I was.
Yeah.
But, in different ways. I wasn't a painter or a musician, But I definitely thought differently than other kids, probably.
I might be wrong here, but you seem like, because most entrepreneurs are this way, so I am assuming, but the kind of kid that was just distracting in class and distracted,
Yes,
and didn't really
distracted, all of that.
Yeah.
Always in trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of times. Yeah.
Do you know why? Do you know why that was? I mean, looking back, of course, do you know why that's how you were? That's how you were kind of designed?
Well, I think it was because I had this ADD, but I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
I just thought I was, a cut. And, but I came to find out that my brain was shooting out, lots of thoughts at once.
Yep.
And so that's how I was.
Were you a good student though?
No, I was not.
No. I think I saw you went to college in Miami though, right?
I did. I went to Miami U, and I didn't last. Didn't make it too far. I was terrible.
Did you? What was it that? Did you just not enjoy the curriculum? Did you not enjoy the setting?
It was great.
It's Miami.
Yeah,
I can't imagine
loved
you
it.
didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, I was getting high a lot, and just
Partying.
party. I guess they call it partying. It wasn't really too much of a party, but it was wild, just undisciplined, away from home. I am amazed by kids today how well they do in school. Like my first year away from home, I was like a wild,
Right.
Sleeping till 3.
Yeah, just let loose.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was a spell where I was actually going out at 1 o'clock at night.
Huh.
I remember that. I was on this crazy time thing. And I would go to this club, get there at 2:30 in the morning. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Sleep until 2 o'clock.
Yeah. Oh God, I could sleep all day.
Did you have any idea though what you would do with your career, your life at that point?
Well, I did think I would be in the shoe business.
Even in college?
I did, even in college, yeah. Because I had done the job in high school. I was very interested in it.
And this was in New York at the time you were working at a shoe shop in New York?
Well, I went to high school in New York. So,
Yeah. Were you making shoes? Were you selling shoes? What were you doing in the shoe
I was
business?
working in a store.
Got it.
Yeah,
So you're a salesman.
I was. And a stock boy.
Did you like selling, or was it more so you liked shoes?
I love selling. And I liked shoes. I liked them both.
Did you wear nice shoes? Were you like a fashionista?
I not
in a sense?
really.
Yeah.
I'm still not really.
Yeah.
I still sort of wear T-shirts.
As he's wearing a black T-shirt, black pants, and I love the LA Dodgers hat in black.
Well, I'm in LA. I gotta wear
Yeah,
LA.
you got to wear LA. You can't wear New York stuff here.
I was, very average. Not a fashionista. But I was interested in shoes.
I'm guessing you're pretty good at the time, like in the store selling shoes and whatnot.
Yes, I worked hard. I sort of remember working hard like a high school kid, like working like extra.
Grinding.
I was grinding. I was even grinding even then. I did have this feeling, this sense that I was working towards something, but I didn't know what it was. I did.
Did you have anyone that you would consider like a mentor to you at that time?
I had mentors along the way. I think it's so important. Such a gift to get a mentor.
Like someone who took a liking to you and said, "Hey, Steve, you're pretty good at this. You should pursue it."
Yes, I did. I had mentors, and which was great. And I had a few along the way. They go away after a while. But
Did you pick them or did they pick you?
I picked them. Yeah, for sure.
Like-
I don't know. Maybe one of them picked me. I don't know. You never know about that.
Yeah.
Was it like your boss in the store?
Yeah, my boss at the shoe store that I worked in, Lance. I love that they do this new thing. You guys, where they go, shout out to Lance Rubin. They do this thing. I noticed.
Shout out to Lance Rubin.
Shout
There
out
you
to
go.
Lance Rubin.
Where's he at now?
Cool. He's just like retired. He's an older fellow, nice, great guy.
Would he be
Still loves shoes.
Would he be surprised at the success that you've achieved?
I think he is surprised and also proud of it because he really knows
Yeah.
that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be Steve Madden. This
Right.
guy really,
Yeah.
he was like this, he was this guy, he was like this handsome guy, first of all, and all the girls loved him. So right away on that score, he was the coolest. And he worked in a shoe store. He was like 30,
Yeah.
29, owned a shoe store. And, it was kind of like sort of a different kind of a guy. But he was into, what was interesting about him, he was into the styling of the shoes. He wasn't just like buying the shoes. He was like, and he started working, this guy, Lance, he started working with the wholesalers to create what he wanted for the stores. And then he went into the wholesale business. And I later joined him in the wholesale business.
Got it.
I worked for him.
What kind of shoes are we talking about? Men's shoes, women's shoes,
Women's shoes. But there was some men's back in the day, but it was,
and like luxury brands, or
no, just, funky stuff.
so who are the customers that are coming in?
Women from the age of, 15 to 40,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
And you did well, like as a salesman, you did well with that demographic.
I was very good at that.
What made you so
But
good?
I'm a good salesman.
What does that mean
What
for
is
someone who's not a good? It's not me, but just someone who's listening who's not a good salesman.
Well, there's all kinds of selling, but it's an art, and I'm probably not that good anymore. But I always prided myself in being able to sell. I knew that if I had the attention of the potential buyer, that I could make that sale. Yeah.
Did you have other aspirations of, other industries you wanted to work in at the time? Or was it like, I found my niche in the shoe business. This is what I want to do?
I did. I kind of found it. I didn't really.
Yeah, because you can sell like anything, right? You can sell real estate, you can sell furniture.
Yeah.
But you thought shoes, like that's what I want to do,
Yeah.
shoes. What did you think it was a good business or?
I knew that I was going to go into it one day. I just didn't know how.
What gave you so much conviction? I mean,
Which point? At which point?
at this point, I assume you're a few years into working. You're out of college.
Yeah.
You're working in the shoe store. What gave you so much conviction that this was going to be your life, or at least in that moment, what you perceived to be your life?
I was just very interested in it, and I didn't know. I didn't sort of know how it was going to be, but I knew that it would be, and again, I worked hard at it, and what I thought came to pass. Actually,
It's very interesting because you're one of few people who has kind of this story of I found it very early on and just stuck to it. Right now, everybody's they try out a bunch of different things.
yeah, I was so lucky though. I was very lucky. Me having the mentor and seeing it was just a very unique, just very lucky in that part of my life. Very, very fortunate.
So when was it when you decided, all right, I'm going all in on this. it's time? Was it after college or?
So I went to college, came back, worked in another shoe store, and then worked for 2 years, and then was the guy that had started the first store took me into his wholesale business.
Got it. And that's where you started your own business?
I started my business about 10 years later.
10 years later.
Yeah, 10 years from after I left the shoe store.
So you're working
9 or 10 years later, yeah.
So you're working with this guy, and are you learning again how to sell? Or are you learning to buy? Or are you learning to make it?
I'm learning how to make shoes.
Got it.
And how to how to create shoes, and how to sell and create shoes. It was always part of the same thing.
It's almost like this paid apprenticeship to kind of learn everything.
Yeah, it wasn't an apprenticeship.
Oh, no, I know.
But
Yeah, and all this time, are you building relationships with people?
yeah. I was good. I had customers, and yeah, I was in my 20s, and I was very lucky. The whole path was very. But the thing is that I see, today, just to digress, I put the time in. I did the work. I paid my dues. And I see a lot of youngsters they want to go into business not paying their dues.
Right.
Paying your dues, just for the sake of paying dues is nothing. But I mean, doing the work and learning the business. I by the time I went into my own business, which was, like at 32 years old, I had been working since I was 17, and being a stock boy and being a salesman and working in a factory and doing all this stuff. So I was ready.
Yeah. So the time when you're selling all the shoes out of the trunk of your car, that's when you're 32, or was that a little bit later?
That was when I was 32.
Wow. So after 10 years working in the industry, you still had to.
Yeah. Well, then I went into my own business, so I didn't have all the resources. So I had to be a little creative. Yeah.
Steve, during those 10 years, because that requires like ultra focus. Were you single? Were you, dating? Were you married? Because once that comes into the picture, right, and other things and kids and.
Yeah, that was another.
Right? Like you start losing focus. Like even now, as 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, like you get into these different things in your life and you're no longer solely focused on school or solely focused on work. Yeah. What was your situation like at that time?
Well, if I had been married and had a kid, I wouldn't be here sitting with you. I would have been,
you would have been Steve Madden, the stockbroker at like Fidelity or something.
No, I don't know what I'd be doing, but I was singularly focused on my career. That was it.
Was that a good thing?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. It was a good thing. Where I'm at today, I'm glad I did that, where I'm at. But at the time you miss out on a lot of stuff. People are getting married. People are going to all these islands.
The Nassau, Bahamas.
No, they went to these islands. I never went to any of them. I would meet people. They're going to St. John, St. Bart's, Turks and Caicos, and Puerto Rico and Aruba. I never went anywhere because I was always working.
Yeah.
I remember when I first made a few dollars, I said, let's go to St. Bart's.
How was it?
It was good. I enjoyed it. I was like
worth the hype.
Or 58 when I went to St. Bart's. I don't even remember. It was great. But I never went anywhere. I went to Boca. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you decided, okay, I'm going to go off on my own. I'm going to start my own business. And then you come out with your first shoe. How are people finding out about it? Were you like hitting up all your contacts?
So in those days, if you get them planted in the stores. So that's what I had, because I had connections. So if you got them in, and they worked and they retailed, then word would spread. If they checked, if the consumer bought them, it's very much like the record business. In the same way, if you could be small if you had something, like Sun Records, with Elvis. It was a little shitty little hole in the wall, or like Motown, Berry Gordy with a little, but he had a few records and people bought the records and then the word spread and then, it was similar to that, very similar.
Right. I want to backtrack a little bit. Where did you have money saved up to start Steve Madden? Was there a transition period between leaving, this business that you're working for 10 years with your mentor.
I had very little money.
Yeah.
I just kind of creatively started up and worked whatever financial angle I could work.
But what allowed you to think to myself, now is the time? I mean, you've been, I assume, loyal to that guy for 10, 15 years, and then just a switch
I think
flipped?
I was frustrated. I think I wanted to, have my say, It was time for me,
Yeah.
How'd you figure out what the first design was going to be?
I remember what it was. It was a little clog.
Was it the Maryland?
It was the Maryland. It was the Maryland.
Why'd you call it the Maryland?
Don't know. I guess it was named after Marilyn Monroe or something.
Yeah.
I think, I guess. And it was just a little backless shoe. And it was a hit. It was pretty much a hit right away. Boom.
And you obviously called the brand after yourself. Was there any sort of like thought to that, or it was just like, oh, sounds good, Steve Madden, like my name is not Salvatore Ferragamo or something, and like it's not sexy, so I'm just gonna put my name?
It wasn't something I thought a lot about. It was just, okay, let's just call it that. I had a name. It was called Soulier. It was slippers.
Some French name, yeah.
Nobody knew, and 10 people said they owned it. It was one of those, and I was like, fuck this. And, I'm going to call it Steve Madden, and that's it. I know I own it. And, so that's what I did.
Hopefully those 10 key people have still kept that one, because with the values of how things go up, that's probably worth something.
Yeah, maybe.
So whoever owns the Soulier clog, let us know.
Much stuff, when, talking about my life with the book and everything.
Yeah.
But so much stuff is like, I can't believe I did that. Why did I do that? It's not like, I don't know. I'm sure that, there are other entrepreneurs that had it all worked out on the blackboard, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Just sort of trying to survive and going from one success to another, but small successes.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, I mean, Pat and I have done this now, I think 250 something times. And I think a lot of people craft their story to seem as though they had it all planned out.
Not me.
Yeah. And I don't think they're actually telling the truth, to be honest with you.
I don't know who's telling what.
Yeah.
But, I can't believe, I was scared. I was on my own. I was selling shoes. I knew that I kind of was, that the notion of making hits was the thing that drove me. Like I knew if I just keep making hits, the word will spread and everything will sort of sort itself out. And that was the overriding sort of philosophy of the company.
Mm-hmm. Where were you getting inspiration from for the designs of your shoes?
Everywhere. Everywhere and anything, other brands, dreams, movies, I always say it's like a big pot, you mix the pot up and, you come up with stuff.
But like you were you the typical fashion designer? I mean, like sitting down, sketching things, like testing it out, making it, I mean, you didn't study fashion design. What was your style like?
Well, at first I made shoes for I was very focused on a certain demographic. I was sort of got sober around the same time I started my business. And I was very sort of like an infant. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do much. So I would go to 8th Street on my way to the meetings. And I kind of made shoes for 8th Street. That was like my influence was like this very small world. Mm. And it was kind of cool. And then, of course, spread my wings a little bit and did other stuff,
This episode is brought to you by More Than Profit. If you enjoy the Founder Hour, we think you'll enjoy this podcast too. It celebrates entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders that are living and working with purpose. The host, Bryce Butler, sits down with his guests and shares personal stories about what it's like to succeed and even fail. But more than that, what motivates them beyond just profit to press forward in their work and as a leader. Check out More Than Profit wherever you get your podcasts or at www.morethanprofit.fm. All right, let's get back into the episode. As the business started to grow, you have to hire people, you have to manage people. Was that something that came pretty easy to you, to be like a leader of people?
It's very easy to me. That was the easy stuff. That stuff is like you just hire people to do it for you.
Right.
Because as long as I could make the hits, we could figure out that other stuff that seems complex, very complex to certain people. Shipping and computers and IP and IT and AP and all of that. It's just all for
All the acronyms.
yeah, but it all falls into place if you have the right product. You could just get someone to do it. I remember when there was a thing. I had this guy, Dave Pratt.
Shout out to Dave
Shout
Pratt.
out to Dave
Shout
Pratt.
out to Dave Pratt. I love that. That's a new thing. Shout out to Dave Pratt. They do, he was a tech. We had a guy who ran the computers. He was probably in business 3 years or something. And I challenged him one time because I was feeling like an idiot, like I want to let everybody know I'm the boss. And I started talking to him and he knew so much more than me. And I remember there was a moment where I said, what the fuck am I doing? Let this guy do his thing. I don't know anything about this stuff.
Yeah.
It was a big moment for me,
To just be like, take a step back and let the guy do his thing.
Yeah, let him do his thing. But at first I was challenging him. Tell me about this. What do you mean?
But were you still the one designing the shoes? That
Yeah,
was your role.
Yeah, directing the product, yeah.
And how was it? How was the company doing in the early days? I mean, financially, was it a success by whatever your definition of success was?
So the company was pretty successful right from the beginning, small. It was ahead of itself, I was doing a little better than I thought I would. And then I got funding, and that's how I got involved with the Wolf of Wall Street guys. And so then I got money.
Did you need that money?
Well, to build a big business, I needed it.
So that was like
I deployed the capital, yeah.
12 or so years after you started the business, right?
No, the IPO was 3 years after I started.
Oh, okay, got it. So
Yeah.
So the Stratton Oakmont, the Wolf of Wall Street stuff, for those who haven't seen it, Stratton Oakmont, was, so you were childhood friends with one of the guys, Danny.
Yeah, Danny Porish.
Danny Porish.
Shout out to Danny Porish.
I was like, I don't know. Do we shout him out? I don't know.
God, of course we
Why
shout
not?
him
Fuck
out.
it. Danny Poor, shout out.
He's he was part of the journey, and
So for those who have seen the movie, you're portrayed in it by this guy, and did they hit you up and say, hey, do you want to be a part of the movie?
yeah, well, they didn't ask me to be in the movie, but they asked me to help them with the movie. So they
Consultant.
They did film in my store, and they
Yeah.
used my ad, and
So what happens? So the reality, I cared less about the movie per se, but in reality, so they give you this funding. You're obviously going to deploy the capital so that you can scale the business. They IPO you. Is it to basically try to like pump and dump? Is that what they were trying to do with CMAT and the brand?
I think so. That's right. Yeah.
And like,
It
but
didn't work out. It wasn't that
yeah,
way.
but when did you realize that was going to happen? I mean, did you know that was going to happen when you got into it, or is it something that like you're like, oh shit, like?
I never thought I wasn't building a real company.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm saying when they gave you the capital.
Yeah, I thought I was going to build a real company, but I did know, I did realize that I was part of their product, sort of assembly line.
And you were okay with that
Yeah.
at that point in time?
Well, I didn't have any other place to raise money, so that was it.
I'm sure you talk about this in your book, but at what point did things start to go south? And, I know in hindsight, it's obviously easy to say, I would have done this, I would have done that. But if you could go back, is there anything you would change? Would you do things differently?
I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I wish that I had, not gotten so deeply involved with the guys, but I was, part of the thing. I was greedy and stupid. And so I don't, I don't regret anything. I mean, do I wish that I didn't go to prison? I guess. But no, I don't, because so many things happened as a result of me going away. So many great things in my life. And, it's like there was a plan and, it's worked out well. But there was pain, you know.
Yeah, I think I saw in your book you said it was like one of your biggest fears.
Yeah, sure.
How do you come to grips with something like that, like as it's happening?
It's you know what? That's a great question. So you just are numb when something like that happens. You know, it's like when my brother died. You know, it was the same thing. I was just numb. I couldn't believe it was happening.
Do you feel like your life is completely over at that point, or
No, you go numb. Your life is no, because you know it's just something. You just go numb, and this is happening now. You know,
Steve, you're such a smart guy. You were building this amazing company. Did you just think that you weren't going to get caught? I mean, like, what was it that made you so greedy? I mean, you were making money. The company was successful. It was on its path to making money. Like, why not just be like, fuck, like I made a bad deal. I'm out. I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah.
I don't want to get involved in this shit. Well, I mean,
no, that would have been smart.
I mean, I know it would have been smart, but and that's who you were. But why did you not? Why were you greedy?
And I'm not that smart.
I mean, that's debatable, but like,
well, we got caught up in something, and you know, and that's it. What can you say? I mean, it was very compelling. It was a lot of money, and what can I tell you?
So I know as part of that whole thing, you had to step down, resign as CEO.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think I read in jail you were making like $700,000 as a creative consultant. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. I asked for a raise.
I mean, yeah, why not? Did you have time to? So, how long were you in jail?
No, I had a contract, and that was it.
Yeah.
So $700,000. Yeah.
How long were you in jail?
2.5 years.
And was that a time of reflection, or was that just straight up just suffering for 2.5 years?
Reflection and suffering. Yeah.
And what came to you during that time? Because you said that you don't regret it. So why don't you regret it?
I don't really regret it. No, I don't regret it. I mean, I regret if I caused harm to people, and I was part of this thing with Stratton Oakmont, and I regret that. But I don't regret the path of my life. I mean, I can't imagine where I would be without going to prison. Without that, I was very lucky though. I was able to take my business to another place when I got out. So it worked out for me.
Right.
It was horrible. I don't, yes. I mean, do I wish, it was horrible. But,
right.
I wouldn't have children, my children, if I didn't go to prison because.
Why is that?
Well, I met my wife, we got, as a result of, we got close, this woman and I. And we ended up getting married as soon as I got out, and we had children. And I wouldn't have been with this woman had I did not done this, bid. And I think about that a lot. So my kids, that's a big thing. I always wanted to have children, and I had them late in life. And I have two 15-year-olds and a 10-year-old. And so I'm grateful for that, and I wouldn't have had them. So,
what was your biggest takeaway? Not from yourself at this point, but being in jail for 2.5 years. What was your takeaway about the justice system, the criminal justice system in general? I mean, did you have a chance to reflect on that or think about that?
Did.
I mean, because again, as a smart guy, like you're thinking about those things now. You're like, okay, now I'm here. I got nothing. I can't do anything about it. I can't bitch and moan constantly for 2.5 years.
The incarceration of African Americans is deeply troubling to me.
Why is that? I mean, give us more context.
Because they threw the book at these kids for dealing drugs, and they gave enormous amounts of time and broke up families, and it's just terrible.
And only because they were black.
Like for weed and for coke. I mean, 20 years and 10 years, and just it's almost like they're warehousing people. It was just very troubling to me. And I felt lucky, as a white guy, but the drug laws were really, severe, and it really targeted these kids. And,
It's discriminatory, basically.
well, I you know what? discriminatory. I mean, it was just unfucking fair.
Right.
You know, I mean, there were white people caught up in it too.
But
Don't
not
get me
20
wrong.
years, yeah.
Well, you know, there used to be the law was if you had 100 plants, you know, it was 10 years automatically. Mandatory minimum was 10 years for 100 plants of something that's legal today.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fucked up, you know. So that's what I took away.
And that's not too long ago, by the way, because this is what, early 2000s?
Yeah, it's not too long.
Like, that's like less than 2 decades
and
ago.
cocaine, you know,
Yeah.
of course, you know about the crack cocaine is much more severe than powdered cocaine. Well, that's not a coincidence. Crack cocaine was in the hood,
Yeah.
you know, and so, you know, they were very racist, those laws. And so I was, you know, something that I came away
Yeah.
with and felt, you know, I knew that it was a big advantage being white. You know, it's a big advantage in America, which is the opposite of what a lot of people think today.
Right.
But
For people listening who might find themselves at some point in a dark
Yeah.
place like you were in,
Yeah.
like in their journey, is there anything you would tell them about how they could get out of that? Like going to prison is one thing, but the mentality of like, am I a failure? How do I bounce back from this?
yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, you know, survival. And, you know, well, for me, the big change in my life was getting sober, you know, and everything changed after that. You know, it's going to prison is a bad deal. Now, generally speaking, they tend to, I think that most things, you know, no physical stuff tends to be very severe. They give 5 years for this, 10 years for that. I mean, it's a lot of time. And people think it's nothing, but like, you know, it's 5 Christmases away from home for tax fraud or something, you know, I don't, you know, so even that's severe. I mean, although violent crimes, of course, we feel differently. We want to see
Punish them.
people go to, yeah.
So when you come out, how do you get reacclimated to day-to-day life?
Took me about 12 minutes.
It's like, I'm out, I'm ready to
Yeah,
hit the
that was
ground running.
quick.
What was the first thing you did?
Had sushi.
Nice.
I think I had sushi. Yeah. No, it was great. I was so lucky because, you know, I had such a great support system and good family, and, you know, I was engaged, and that was great. And shout out to my ex-wife, Wendy.
You've just been
Shout out
waiting
to
for
my
that one.
ex-wife,
Yeah,
Wendy Madden. You know, that was great. It was just I was really blessed. I was
Yeah.
lucky. I'm lucky. You know, some things are just luck, you
Yeah.
know, or
Yeah.
fate or God or whatever it is, you know. I mean,
And so you stayed on as a consultant at that point?
no, I went to work.
So what was your role at that point?
The same thing it was before, but I had to wait. I couldn't direct product like I did before because I was away out of the game for a couple of years.
A lot of the questions that we got from our listeners prior to us sitting down with you, and I know it's something that I'm sure you've talked about, was that a lot of and I mean, we've grown up around Steve Madden. I remember as a kid going to the department stores, there was always Steve Madden there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy.
Ubiquitous. I'm ubiquitous.
Kind of crazy to sit down with
Yes.
Steve Madden.
Yes.
But a lot of the products, not a lot, but the products almost resembled these luxury items, whether it was, I don't
You
know.
mean I copied Gucci?
I didn't say anything.
okay.
But I said resembled.
No,
but
it's part of the business, you know.
so
If
could you
there's a-
explain?
if
Could you
there's a
explain what that
900
means? Yeah.
Yes, we're influenced by, you know, $900 shoes. I
Right.
make $90 shoes, so definitely an influence.
Right.
But it's not all we do.
So how does that work, though? I mean,
Just,
like
it's just-
from a legal standpoint,
We don't really do it as much.
got it.
You know, we don't do it as much. But you know, if there's some shoe, I mean, but we're influenced by everything.
Right.
You know,
Right.
You know, there's nothing.
Everything's an influence.
Everything is an influence.
Yeah.
Everything.
Are you guys still serving, or at that time, were you guys still serving the same demographic as you were when you started and were serving that 8th Street demographic
A little
that you talk
bigger
about?
now.
Of course, but like in terms of style and the people that were actually buying
Well, I
it.
think because of the internet, those kind of looks became big everywhere across
Yeah.
the country.
Yeah.
What would you say are some common misconceptions about you that you've heard that you could address, or maybe you do address in the book?
Well, you know, most people don't even know what I look like. You know,
Right. Yeah, you have to like search Steve Madden
Person.
on Google for it to come up.
Yeah, no, there's my picture is in there. But people like, it's always so funny, Google, because.
Shout out Google.
Yeah, shout out to Google. But, people will see, is that him? I'll be in the store or in a restaurant. Is that him? And then I'll see them go on their phone and Google me. And I can almost tell in what process they are in that whole thing.
They're like, is he really dressed
Is that him?
like this?
Is that him?
Isn't that kind of great though, or do you want people to recognize you? Like, isn't it cool to just like kind of walk down the street and not everybody knows who you
after
are?
the film, The Wolf of Wall Street, they started to do that Steve Madden bit. Steve Madden, that whole thing.
Yeah.
People would I'd walk down the street, I still get it, And sure, it's great. It's great, sure. I mean, I wouldn't want to be famous like Paul McCartney or Drake or whatever, because you can't, or whoever. I don't know if those are good examples, but
They're good examples of very famous people.
But you couldn't have a meal without being interrupted,
Right.
Or you'd have to eat like with a curtain up or something, which sounds dreadful to me.
Yeah.
We just came from a place where they made you put tape over your
Shoes.
over your camera because they wouldn't let you take pictures, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Even though everybody just wears cameras on them now.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
I've never taken a picture of anybody in a fucking restaurant, but they made me cover it up.
Yeah.
So you talk about getting married, having kids. That was how many years ago now?
I got out 18 years ago.
18 years ago.
19 years ago.
And did you enjoy being that family man and raising kids? I mean, was that something that you're proud of being a dad, but how were you like as a dad? Or how are you like as a dad?
I don't know. I don't, I think that I'm terrible. I don't think, I try to do the best I can, but you always think you could do more as a parent.
Is that your general mentality, like a very pessimistic mentality? No, just like a pessimist.
Yeah, but I know, I don't know what makes a good parent. I really love my children and I try to kiss them before bed. And I try to take them to school in the morning and make them breakfast. But, I'm not, reading them Hemingway or anything. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm, I feel like I could do more. I always feel like that. Mm-hmm. But when I think about my generation and my parents, they didn't do anything. I just did it. They got me clothes. They did a lot, but
they didn't coddle you.
It didn't seem like today. I just was a kid and ran the streets, and I don't remember my father ever, like, what did you do tonight? Like, what?
Right. They were not your friend.
I never had that. No.
Yeah. Parents today, I feel like are more friendly.
Came home, and that was it. Mm-hmm. So, they didn't go to a fucking practice. Like if you had golf practice or soccer practice or basketball practice, parents go to the fucking practices now. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
I think my father went to one Little League game.
Yeah.
I didn't miss him either.
Mm-hmm. Well, you didn't know any better.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah. I know you talk about this, and you kind of alluded to it now, but you're always thinking about, well, I could do better.
Well,
right? Yeah. Was that a recurring theme even with Steve Madden? And
we're always thinking we could do better. Aren't you thinking that?
Always, yeah.
Yeah. How do you balance that with being content, though? Like, not content, but, like, happy.
I'm only happy when I'm sleeping.
Yeah. It's a tough balance.
Yeah, I think so.
What made you write this book, The Cobbler?
Wanted to maybe reach someone who's struggling, and also wanted to tell my story while I could remember it, and wanted to tell my story for those who saw The Wolf of Wall Street. Those were three sort of factors.
Yeah. Besides learning your story, what else do you hope people can take away from the book?
If you're a drug-taking 28-year-old and you think your life is over, maybe, you could get sober and go on to other things. Maybe we reach somebody. And also, I don't think I'm that. I think I'm quite ordinary, and that's also some kind of a message. I don't think, I'm not brilliant like Bill Gates or whatever. I would. Did you ever see Bill Gates dance on stage at the Microsoft?
Oh yeah,
developers.
Yeah.
They were these white guys doing these.
That's one of my favorite videos on the internet, by the way.
Spastic moves. That guy that owns the Clippers,
Steve Ballmer.
Yeah, dude was on the white spastic human. Wow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
No, we'd never do that.
Yeah.
We would never do that.
But going back to maybe yourself in high school, what would you say to yourself, knowing what you know now?
Well, the first thing I always say this, I would say you're not that ugly. That's the first thing. If I could go back, I would tell them,
after seeing all these people throughout my life.
Well, I thought I was
not
so
that ugly.
homely, and now I don't think I was, but I thought I was. So that would be something. No, I mean, I'm kidding, but there was a general sort of insecurity. I think you're not that great, you're not that terrible either.
When did you feel, or have you felt throughout your life, a time when you're not that insecure? Did you ever feel that?
I think when I became a Jeopardy question changed.
Yeah, that was
life.
I've made it.
Oh shit! Fucking Jeopardy! I used to watch that with my grandmother.
Alex Trebek. Shout out to Alex. Well,
Art Fleming.
Rest in peace to Alex Trebek.
Shout out to Art Fleming, the original.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that shout out. It's so
yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Who else do you want to shout out?
It's cool. You really.
We're gonna title this episode "Shout Out Steve Madden."
Shout out to Steve Madden.
Yeah, shout out.
Well,
to
it was
Steve
great
Madden.
being here.
It was great having you.
Yes,
this is great.
It was so much fun. You guys have good questions and sell the book, The Cobbler.
And where can people find it?
Everywhere where books.
Where food is sold. I mean, books are sold.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
It was great.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, fellas. That was great.